Part 2, Chapter 17 of If All These Young Men by Romer Wilson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 2, London, Chapter 17, Solitude. When the body is weary, the heart falls sick and the mind loses courage. All the events give way to nothingness. Continuation and sequence break off, and life drops dead like a wind before a storm. Then a man realizes that he is indeed alone, and fancies that in the daytime all emanates from him, and that nightfall is the shutting of his eye. He longs for a friend, one with whom he is equal. He longs for a double of his heart, and for perfect interchange of understanding. He longs for his mind to be completed in another mind, and to feel that he is one base angle of a triangle of which the base angles are equal, so that he can look upward and say, "Our heaven is as near my friend as it is near me." He sighs and feels it is too much to give everything for less. A sick man does not want love, for the lover is always above the loved, and the loved above the lover. He is in a passion for equality, for comprehension and unity. At times the mind passes through a sensation of being unborn, and existence appears stationary. It becomes possible for the reason to co-relate heaven and earth, philosophy and the common actions, and, in exile from life, to have a rare and wonderful view of heaven, in which is earth, and earth in which is hell. At night time, in dead loneliness, the liar awake falls outside creation, and sinking a great way from it, sees a view of it. Time ceases, a minute becomes the night, or the night a minute. Place vanishes, sensation of body vanishes, the mind floats in the void, and the course of life appears. No questions arise such as, what is life? No assertion of the nature of, if I am, God is, troubles the thoughts. The unknown and the known are both clear. No superconsciousness stirs under the perceptions. There appears no consciousness at all, save that of exile from the wonder of the universe, from fear, from nature, and from bliss. The perceptions are acute, but realization is dead. The mind knows through sight, but it is not aware of what it sees. The loveliness, together with the vileness of creation, is beyond realization. The marvel of heaven and the fear of hell are visible but not felt. The mind's eye has no horizon, but the mind's heart is dead. That night, as Josephine lay in bed, she began to think. It did not seem possible that tomorrow could follow today, that the people of this day would all be revived in the morning. Darkness seemed something supernatural and awful. Then she remembered that the sun shines all over heaven, that night is only the earth's own shadow, and saw the earth turn round upon its axis, a small ball hung with clouds, sweeping wide circles round the amazing sun. It vanished. She saw the whole of space within the universe blank with light, and heard the interminable shrill whistling of the infinitesimal worlds. But immediately the light became dark, and she emerged into a sandy plain, in which there was a lake, and at the edge of the lake stood a stricken orange tree. In the tree perched a bird like a pelican, which had a superhuman mind. The place was familiar to her, the white light of its day, the sandy shore, the small strip of green grass under the tree, belonged to some old fairy dream. This way child Roland came to the dark tower. Beyond the horizon were the Caucasus, and this shore was in some region such as Turkestan. She knew the spot so well that she was able to lean against the tree, to look at the lake and plain, fancying she was in man's old country, to look up at the bird which with its unwinking eye had seen many solitary wanderers from Europe and from Asia. Here a Chinese exile had rested. Here a Slav prince had gone by. Here a Christian knight had watered his charger. Here, in dreams, a few men and women had stood alone, and many children had stopped a moment here in those times when their youth forsook them. The place was not frequented, though many people came there. The sun shone always, there was no wind, there were no flowers and no clouds. The sky was like blue silk, the lake like glass, the lawn like velvet, and the sand as smooth as the shore of a sea. It was blessed with solitude. No mystic meaning lay within it. It was a simple country where wanderers, fluttering up and down the ages, paused. and which in old times had, no doubt, been of great importance. She looked through the eye of the bird as if it were her own eye, and found herself in Europe, and saw all its small life at a glance, enacted simultaneously in the color and detail of its times and the emotions of its tendencies. She saw with distinct clearness all the movements and progress which are called nationalities, coming and going like colors upon the sea, and at the same time she beheld that all these comings and goings, so fluent and so elusive, changing always under the universal winds of life and upon the secret tides of human existence, had their expression in the actions of people and only in actions, and these actions also were clear to her down to the least dust they raised and the least sound of a lifted finger. The green continent, with its white mountains and dark woods entwined with blue rivers, lay flat below her. Nations blossomed and faded off. Thoughts came to beauty and were lost. Passions welled up and sank away again. And out of this fruition and decay there rose man's history, that tracing upon the barograph of the gods, in which is read the weather of his soul. Her thoughts came out to her in images, alive, real, and colored, more highly colored and more real than daily life, and the images expanded and contracted upon the beats of her heart, and came first near and then receded upon the widening and closing of her inward sight. The pulses of her blood, the slackening of her muscles and her nerves, shifted and kept in motion all her thoughts which had ceased to be expressed in words. Now scenes of other days grew out of the dark, and she found herself in an Italian garden of Gethsemane. Phrases of books and memories of pictures expressed themselves in quickly following scenes. She was Michelangelo at dinner with Lorenzo, and then Michelangelo up in the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and then she became St. Francis preaching in Giotto's woods to little birds, and the next moment found herself an Infanta, stiff with gold and jewels, in some vast Spanish court of gloom. All that she had ever read poured before her eyes, its visionary loveliness and spectacular glories. All Rome fell out of heaven, rich with the noonday rape of the Sabine wives, with gladiatorial shows, with Virgil's dream of Troy, and Dante's hell and heaven and paradise. All France passed through her memory, a land of wars, of courts and fairy passions, of guilt and splendid artifice and final revolution. All Russia, one huge dark ideal realized in ferocity and blood and snow. The large misty ghosts of her friends floated up across her rapid dreams as if they were leaving her. All the people she knew, Blanchard and Mary, Sebastian, Susan, and 100 others, passed up like souls drifting across limbo. Her mind stabilized. She saw the war pictorially for a minute, but no emotion from it touched her. It vanished. She felt as if life were slipping with incredible rapidity through her mind, and then all sensation ceased and she was without a body. All vision went out and she was without eyes. Soon she saw again with different eyes, and death appeared very close down upon her, as if it were spread over her. It came very close to her, and she could look calmly at it, without joy and without fear. New wordless thoughts without visions came to her, and she felt death not as an end, not as a cessation, but as continual consciousness. Life appeared as loss of consciousness, and changed places with man's idea of death. Peace, sureness, and calm came over her through death. The fires of desire burnt out. Fear's madness passed away. The pain of jealousy faded from the heart. She wanted nothing. The repose of nothingness came over her, and she was at rest. Such death is as cold to the lover, is as blind to beauty, is as uncovetous of gold as true death, but in it there is no bodily decay. It is as dark as sleep, but in it there are no dreams and no unconsciousness. It is the threshold of life, the in-betweenness of heaven and earth, and the gateway of that high paradise upon earth which is beyond beauty and outside fear. Josephine slept. It was 2 o'clock, the hour when night flagged and the height of midnight ebbed low. Life flowed out like a river upon the tide, and those who lay awake felt it pull round their hearts like outgoing water round a river post. Over the whole town lay silence. The traffic was still. No smoke rose up from the chimneys. In the works the workers slept on their benches. Yesterday was over, and tomorrow had not yet begun. Life hung slack, and in hallucination time itself poised on the crest of its evolution one imperceptible second, and then passed over and down again, awakening the day. Soon the turmoil of daily existence began to break out again. The cocks of London crew, the sparrows waked, carts rattled in the streets, the sun came up. But those who lived by the hours of civilization turned over into a deeper sleep, and their intricate life of thought and work and aspiration did not revive until the sun had long been over the horizon, and the cocks had long ceased to crow the morning in. End of chapter 17, recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine.